Day. First thing I want to say is thank Christopher for providing me with this because, when I saw Madonna the first time you wearing this, I said, that's cool, so thank you very much for this. I feel myself like Madonna. And, get good pictures of me wearing this. My daughters would love this. But anyway, so I'm trying to go through this I have 15 minutes, maybe I'll take 20, but because it's been an incredible day. And I have personal opinions about this. But I want to thank everybody. I'm not giving names of people who said the different quotes because it would have been much work, and presumably it's going to be in the document. So if you recognize something of you and I don't recognize you sending it, it's my fault, but I think it's a collective work. First of all, we had this magnificent word of welcoming by Christopher, in which he invited us to think about new perspectives, new systems and new structures in governments, corporations, and individuals that will focus on putting back the human being at the very center of what we do. This is quite amazing because if you go back to Peter Senge in his Fifth Discipline, he talked about this. We cannot solve our problems that we have today with the same structures, with the same systems, with the same ways of thinking. We need to change the way we thought when we created these systems and structures. Albert Einstein said that. We cannot solve these very complex issues that we're dealing if we really don't change our sets of minds. And that brings me immediately to one of Mark's comment about, am I willing to review and go through a transformational process towards this? Because what we've seen today is that we're dealing with a very, very complex issue. But to me, it's sorry to say this, but this is probably the best of the fourth Zermatt summits because of the topic. It's a very clear topic that we're addressing very aggressively. Then we received this quote: civil society and NGOs can form a community that is vibrant, diverse, and influential. It can act as a glue between the private and the public sector. And that gave me, to me at least, a lot of emotion. Partnership takes time. It needs profound understanding of each other, came from that very first panel of which I was part of it. Sit together and co-create. We were taken to Haiti for an example of this co-creation in a service of microinsurance. And I love the places we've been taken today to see that. But that first panel to me said, look, sit together, take your time, build those partnerships, and co-create, and you will come out with something very important. The lady from Egypt was very provocative in talking about virtual activism, if you remember. And she said something very powerful. People and civil society cannot be ignored anymore. And that, I think, is a tool that all the Malthusians back in the 1970s never thought about. And we haven't thought about the great tool we have with social media today. I think it is in infancy at the moment. But she also said that it can be a double-edged sword. And he talked about human rights activism and took us to the more darker side of those. And she said something important, and is that this social media has allowed us, for many of the people, to grow, not all of us, but many of us, to grow even more distrustful of the business world. Because we see those practices that maybe the more traditional media never told us. And so that brought us to a very important issue, which I think is at the core of this meeting today, is the word trust. How can we build trust among these very varied type of businesses and this very varied type of NGOs? Somebody, a very intelligent and handsome person, said about unconscious arrogance and to be replaced by conscious humility. I entirely agree with that person. And I think the final quote was the need for a platform. Maybe we can think about that, with the need for a platform, a structure, an organization to help build this partnership. That came out from the morning. But then, I don't know if he's around, but he gave us this, there might be a confusion as to where and when these two things can work together. And he drew this magnificent spectrum that goes from good citizenship through services to advocacy and to final political change. And we all agree that it was not easy to see where the private sector would go in all that long process. Then we talk about the need for legitimacy, transparency, and accountability in NGOs. And I love what happened afterwards, specifically because of that humbleness we need to hear. I've always agreed that we need transparency in NGOs. And then somebody comes from Egypt and said, whoa, 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 whoa. There are elements of transparency in certain places that cannot be placed. And so that, again, shows you that you need to approach these issues with a lot of humbleness. I thank you very much for that comment, because, again, it transformed me. Start afresh, and I think we here have a great challenge. Start afresh with new definitions that would replace the classical ones, such as those of corporations and charities. We still have many of our countries these charities codes, and we now see that we're starting to get lost in words that we cannot manage. Then we have a panel on social entrepreneurship and the business of social change that was in this room, and innovation was there. And it's amazing because I wasn't in that room, but somebody handed me the notes from that room. And it's amazing because both of them start with exactly the same thing. Social entrepreneurship, it's very confusing. Social innovation is very confusing. Agreed, you know, both things came together. Social entrepreneurship, there was a big discussion on how it grew up. But the main conclusion was that it is locally focused, and for that reason, with little worldwide impact. The few cases we know about are very few. You know, again, Muhammad Yunus was mentioned, but there is an issue of scale, you know, of you know, the social entrepreneurship to becoming growth, and it's also said that the social entrepreneurships, and Gonzalo is a good example of that, they're moving into the direction of market forces, and whereas the discussion if market forces are enough, there was a comment on, see this, market frameworks may not be enough to address all the critical issues the world is facing, right? So social entrepreneurs are moving and working with the market, but maybe the market is not all that can be used in order to address all the problems we're trying to see. Profitability might be useful, but it's not the main driver in social entrepreneurship. Risk of companies buying the organization of these social entrepreneurs and allowing them to lose their original purpose. The examples we're giving about, you know, Body Shop being bought by L'Oreal. Need for a new mindset that will base social entrepreneurship on people and relations among them. Need to break the silos and make people believe they're all potential change makers. Again, not be restrained by old definitions. And here we come to something that Mark is very fond of. Education in business school is trying to adapt. Many examples we're giving in India and the UK, but still proving quite difficult. And we need to do that, and we need to address that. Again, ask for a platform. There is a need for a platform that could mix philanthropy and investment for the financing of social entrepreneurship, an innovative one. On the room on the side, business and civil society championing social innovation. As I said, complex topic, phenomenon. As in all innovations, social innovation also have a great probability of failure. And I think we're demanding from social innovations the level of success we are not demanding from the classical innovations. And they have all the right to fail. One of the key issues for them not to fail is the level of ownership of community. If the community owns that social innovation, the success of that social innovations is much more guaranteed. And even not only in providing and thinking about the service or the product, but all the supply chain of that service or the product. Incorporate the community. Signing a partnership, and we're talking about partnership here, signing a partnership, somebody said, is not the same as delivering a partnership. It's totally different, working together and just signing a document. And somebody said, yeah, and it's even more complicated because it's not generally two partners, but it might be many more. In the panel we just had in this room, the government is a critical issue and here's my personal comment, I think the Zermatt Summit was very wise in choosing business and NGOs as a topic for this. But we cannot deal with all of these issues if we don't incorporate the public sector. But I understand that in terms of practicality, it was better to stand it. But we have a topic for the 5th, so, you know, we still want to come back here every year. So, again, need for education that will help this partnering, capacity to listen and empathy, somebody said. Language becomes a critical issue, and we talk here not about language in terms of, you know, Spanish or English or Mandarin. We're talking about the language that NGOs use and the business use. I'm going to make a quite a strong statement after that. Somebody said, well, check how the companies see and evaluate this investment. Is it waste? Is it expense? Is it corporate social responsibility when they are sending? Again, the issue of trust emerged very full. Partnerships that have a purpose, and it was repeated along the panels. Partnerships between businesses and NGOs and local communities and government that have a common purpose will make comparative advantages for all, business, NGOs, and governments. So make efficient alignment of expectations. Somebody said that the relation, I think, was the WWF with HM. You said it took us 8 months. Where are you? It took us 8 months to agree with how they're going to work. So make an efficient alignment of expectations. Somebody said this beautiful line, we have the same bed, but different dreams, which I think, you know, it's a beautiful line that we need to think. But then there's a very good question. Why do partnerships do not work? And I think this is very useful for us. Time. Sometimes businesses are much more on the urgency to provide results, so there is a different scale of time. Somebody talked about transaction costs in between both. Platforms need more than the two partners. Same strategic objectives are not necessarily the same. We need to align them. Complementary resources to think about that. It's not that we're just giving money to an NGO or money seeking for funds. Scale asymmetry. You know, sometimes a big company works with a very small NGO or the other way around. Maybe you should look for symmetries. And somebody said something which I think it's very important in terms of communications. You're a journalist, Claude. Who do you attribute the social impact in the very end if you're working with that partnership? You know, somebody would try and say, I did it, the NGO, because of, you know. Excellent examples we're giving you. Again, I love this. Brazil, Tanzania, Haiti, Kenya, Cameroon, Ghana. Firms like Vodafone, Google, all of them were mentioned throughout this talks. Then we went to the section over lunch, or just after lunch, the win-win co-creators between the social and business sectors. What I wrote said, to move ahead in social change, the scale required surpasses the practice that social entrepreneurship has had up to now. We need to break the walls between social entrepreneurship and traditional businesses. The government also needs to engage in this process by providing platforms to incentive and to empower it. And they produce, you guys produce, or Arnaud produced a very nice figure. What is in it for each one of this? And I think that's a very value-given statement. What is in for the social entrepreneur, for the business, and for the government? For the social entrepreneur, scale. If you partner with a big company, you might scale up what you're trying to do. And of course, access to resources. For business, the opportunity of growth to a new kind of market. The access to innovation in terms of products, services, but not only products and services, but business models. And of course, strongest real, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, corporate social responsibility positioning. And for government, return on social investment. So if you think about who is going to get what out of this, might help building up that partnership. Again, we were taken to a magnificent project in India of housing for all, and then the extraordinary case of SAP and Specialist, which was very moving. A call in that section was for the need for empathy again. Change-making skills, I love that. Education, Mark, there you are. Change-making skills, you need to develop that in the MBA schools. And a magnificent word, team of teams working together. And you provided us, I don't know, with 3 levels of action: changing the conversation, building capacities, and co-creating in action, actually, how you do that. And so then we just came to the arguments after lunch. It is more than just businesses or how business leaders can contribute to moving a country up. And I thought this was a wonderful session. I know it was after lunch, but it was very good. And Mark came with this needed change in leaders who are now demanded, this new type of leaders. You mentioned 10 years ago, these global leaders were not required. They are due now. But they need to go through 3 levels of transformation, Mark said. Personal and internal transformation. If I don't change myself, not much I can do. Then the transformation of the organization, and you talk about organizational transformation. And sometimes leaders might want to change that organization without changing ourselves. And we can't do that. We need to change ourselves, change the organization, and finally go for the transformation of the system. And you had a strong discussion just a minute ago about changing the system. Malika provided us with a magnificent description of some of the issues related to leadership in India, and we got an excellent example of how business pursuing their chartered mission, their self-interest, had really helped in Liberia. I thought that was a very, very good example. I thank you very much for that. But you all said again, and this is connecting the dots as you asked me to do, things that keep on showing up. Partnerships take time. But if you do take the time, they secure long-term success. Business as usual is not enough. But this is not disregarding business. It's saying business as usual is not enough, but we're not disregarding business. Companies must partner with the countries for their development, understanding the dreams of people. Malika came with the point that, are we partnering with the government of that country or the oligarchs of that country? And the answer was no. We're partnering with the people of those countries and trying to understand the dreams of those people. And somebody said, be aware of those global figures that sometimes define the success. Maybe they're not that good. And then came some statements about the new globally responsible leader. And it said that it's now required not to maximize profits, but rather optimize them. And I thought that was a very good statement. The human being, and this is the whole purpose of the Zermatt summits throughout its 4 versions, the human being must be at the very center of the decision process of businesses. Antonin helped us with this. Businesses should not provide for consumers. They should serve citizens. It's a different thing. You change the word consumer for citizen. And of course, the concept of human ecology could guide how the leaders can contribute to their countries going up. That was Antonin's collaboration. And now the 2 final sessions. I'm not going to be able to do the one at the side because I haven't received the notes, so I'll do that tomorrow. So I'm just going to tell you guys what happened here in terms of environment. How can civil society and the private sector be partners in addressing the environmental challenge? The immediate point was made that businesses are more and more aware of the environmental challenge in all its dimensions. You mentioned the case of water, but in all its dimensions, and that seems quite true. Again, partnerships that work, in the specific case of environmental challenging, partnerships that work are the ones when we know that everyone is involved, and those who are involved know what is coming out of it, the common sense of a purpose, what I'm getting out of this. Considering incentives, we need to consider incentives. Because we talked a lot about regulation, but government can also provide for incentives. And in a way, and in a good way, they could help. Governments have a big role to play with good incentives. Little has been said today about governments, but in the case of environment, it's a crucial actor. I want to say that, and that's for the 5th summit. Again, the point of the government being a part of this, not just duality, but triangle. A description was made of organizations moving from philanthropy to corporate social responsibility. And then came this incredible discussion about the different types of CSR is described. And we talk about the real one. And the real one, it seems to me, as I understood it, is based on integrity rather than just washing out this thing. And we're moving towards that. Addressing the environmental challenge is a journey together with clear objectives. But then the question was made, the secrets of success, or do's and don't do's. Partnership should include the public sector, again. Take into account public services and be flexible in relation to culture. The case of Liberia, the case of India. Take into account different conceptions of impact, urgency. These were made on the case of environment that can be made to any case of partnership between business and NGOs. Engage people at the very top of the organizations, and I think this is crucial. Whoever wants to deal with, you need to have the president or the chairman of the company and the president or the chairman of the big NGO. And they need to deal with the very basics, and then you work down. Because if not, it's going to be terrible. And that gives you sort of a full day in 10 minutes. One thing that I loved, it has nothing to do with this, but I love how little companies understand their supply chains. I love that. Thank you very much. That's it. Thank you.